We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We want to welcome everyone and say thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Arlington Public Schools regular board meeting, November 14th. We're going to start with our land acknowledgement by Dr. Chris Sweeting.
We honor the first peoples of these lands by acknowledging that the area in which we gather is within the traditional territory of the Stillaguamish tribe of Indians. The Stillaguamish people have inhabited these lands and waters since time immemorial, and their ancestors have remained in this territory to this day. The Stillaguamish people have continued to practice the traditional ways of their ancestors of fishing, hunting, and gathering. The Stillaguamish tribe has had these lands and cultural traditions passed on to them by their ancestors, who believed that everything has a spirit and that they are caretakers of these lands and waters.
Thank you, Dr. Sweeting. Next, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to invite everyone to please rise and join me.
Of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we'll have our roll call attendance.
Director Ray,
Here.
Director Kelly,
Here.
Director Kingman,
Here.
President Levesque,
Here.
Director Knapp,
Here.
Student Advisor Schroeder,
Here.
Student Advisor Laban,
Here.
Superintendent Sweeting.
Here,
Thank you. Next on the agenda is our approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented, or are there any changes?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. The agenda is now adopted. And next up is the most wonderful part of our meeting. And we have, for the first time in a very long while, a student presentation tonight at our board meeting. We'd like to welcome Bethany and the Eagle Creek Elementary students.
Awesome. Thank you, Board of Directors. My name is Bethany Belisle, and I get to be the principal of these amazing kiddos who are going to perform for you tonight a selection from our Veterans Day Assembly. So like all of our schools in Arlington, we had our Veterans Day Assembly on the 10th, and they are ready to play under the direction of Miss Hallinger. So go ahead, guys, come on up and take your places. It's my understanding that the Zoom only hears what's in the microphone, so I'm going to do my best to bring the mic on the other side here. Yes, I can totally hold the drummers. So this is a group of 4th and 5th graders who actually put in extra time learning additional notes on the recorder in order to play Yankee Doodle. And then our drummers who are on the bucket drums. This is a group from Mrs. Hughesby's class who did a really awesome job with their drumming. So
Oh.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, everybody. They've only been playing 1 month on the recorders. They stayed in at recess. So you know that they really wanted to do this. And our drummers, these were the best ones of our 4 fifth grade drum lines. Please give them another round.
Are there any questions for our kiddos?
I just think it sounded wonderful. So thank you for coming tonight, bringing your parents with you. And just keep it up.
I want to invite you guys to stay involved in music and keep learning new stuff.
Thank you. All right, Eagle Creek, you guys rocked it. We get to go home now. Thank you, parents, for bringing them.
Yeah, I don't want
Thank you, Eagle Creek parents, students, staff, and families. We appreciate you sharing your talents and sharing your joy. Thank you so much for coming. You're welcome to stay, but you don't have to. The next item on our agenda is our approval of minutes. We've got 4 sets of minutes to approve tonight. Our regular meeting minutes from October 24th, our special board meeting study session minutes from November 7th, our special meeting and event attendance minutes from October 25th and 27th. Do I have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from October 24th?
I make a motion, we approve the regular morning meeting minutes on October 24th.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the regular board meeting minutes from October 24th. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. Those meeting minutes are approved. Next up is the special board meeting study session minutes from November 7th. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the special board meeting study session minutes, November 7th, 2022.
I second.
Then moved and seconded to approve the study session minutes from November 7th. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. Those minutes are approved. Next is our special meeting event attendance minutes from October 25th.
I make a motion, we approve the special meeting event attendance minutes, October 25th, 2022.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the special event minutes from October 25th. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. Those are approved. Next up is our event attendance minutes from October 27th. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the event attendance minute, October 27th.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from October 27th event. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes are adopted. Next up is our portion of the agenda where we have our public comment portion, and I have one person that signed up, and I'm going to read our special script. But we don't see them. So I'm going to spare you reading the script unless there's somebody that's here to speak. All right, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda includes our budget reports, our personnel report, payroll report, warrants, overnight trip, cooperative agreement with Northwest University, Northwest ESD 189 attendance and re-engagement services, MOU, approval of a strategic plan goal language revisions, and an emergency school closure waiver request. Are there any items anyone would like to pull from the consent agenda? Or can I get a motion to approve them as presented?
I make a motion, we approve them as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved. Next, we'll have our new business items, and this is a really fun part of our meeting tonight. We get to hear our donations from the Arlington Education Foundation Fall Mini Grants. We'd like to welcome the representative from the Arlington Education Foundation. I believe we have Kevin S. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
And you have a helper.
I do. My son Riley. I told Riley he was going to help me present grants tonight. He asked me what he should wear. I told him not to dress up.
He looks perfect.
He does. Pajama day at school. Spirit week.
Every day should be pajama day.
I agree. Thank you for having me again. So my name is Kevin S. I'm the projects director for the Arlington Education Foundation. And it is my honor tonight to announce the recipients of our fall. Yeah, I'll hold it. So yeah, I'll be here tonight presenting the grants to the fall 2022 recipients. So before I do that, a little bit about our grants. This is the foundation's 11th year awarding classroom grants. And in those 11 years, we're excited to say that we provided over $141,000 to Arlington teachers and grade teams. So that's exciting. We try and do more and more every year. And I am excited to say that this fall, we're awarding even more than we have in the past. So we're going to continue to grow. So this fall, we received 31 applications, and tonight we're funding 20 of the 31 that we received. For a total of $14,128.36 to those 20 classroom teachers and grade teams within the district. So this is, of course, a great example of the passion and commitment that our teachers and our grade teams have for the students in Arlington. So just real quick, a little bit more about our grants. The applications are distributed to all teachers through the building principals, and included with each application is the scoring criteria that we use to evaluate each grant. Each application is reviewed against the following criteria. We're looking for applications that, number one, have a clear standards-based set of academic goals. Number two, provide long-term sustainable benefits. Number three, promote inclusion and equity. Number four, have an innovative idea or some sort of element of technology. And number five, ideally, they have an opportunity for family involvement. Grants are structured to limits of $500 for a single teacher submitting an application, and up to $1,250 for grade teams or departments in their submissions. So I know we have a few recipients here tonight. So when I call your name and announce your grant, I'll ask that you come up and receive a certificate. Riley will hand that to you if you're here. And we'll just get going. So 20 grants, bear with me. These are exciting. I appreciate you letting me take the time to explain a little bit about each one. So first, we have a $500 grant to Trina Sanford of Pioneer Elementary. The grant is called Kindergarten SOR. This is for the purchase of hands-on learning materials for kindergartners to implement science of reading. Materials purchased will include texts, handheld mirrors, whisper phones, and manipulatives to assist the students in development of letter sounds, phonics, comprehension, vocabulary, and decoding skills. Next is a grant for $1,250 to President's Elementary Preschool Team. This is for a grant titled Preschool Sensory Play. It's for the purchase of materials to help preschoolers. Are you here tonight? Oh, man. Okay, well, why don't you come up? Come on up. Come on up and receive it. Absolutely. No, thank you. I appreciate you receiving it for them. Just make sure they get it. All right, thank you. Yeah, this is for the purchase of materials to help preschoolers with special needs learn multiple languages, develop social and fine motor skills. Materials purchased will include a versatile light table and several sets of manipulatives for that table. Next is a grant for $464.35 to Nicole Brooks, Kent Prairie Elementary. Grant is titled Roller Coaster with Force and Motion. This is for the purchase of Connects building sets for students to build with in STEAM class to support the class's culminating project on force and motion. Students will work in small groups with these supplies to engineer, design, build, and test roller coasters. Students will also use iPads that they already have to record their roller coasters and share that learning with students, fellow students, and their families. We have a grant for $763 for Ben Robinson, Eagle Creek Physical Education. It's for a grant titled 75-inch TV for Eagle Creek Gym. It's for the purchase of a 75-inch TV monitor with AirPlay 2 technology to be used in the school gym. It's to expand technology in his PE classes. He wants to use the TV to describe and show students learning targets, lesson objectives, and show instructional videos, showing skills and demonstrating techniques. Now I know she's here, Abigail Broughton. There you go, Riley. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. Yes. Abigail is from President's Elementary. Her grant was titled Hands-on STEM for First Grade Learners. It's for the purchase of curriculum materials and manipulative resources for STEM bins. These bins will be used to help students participate in independent, partner, and teacher-directed activities, allowing students to engage in STEM learning throughout the year. Awesome grant. Thanks for coming. Next is $1,197 to the 6th grade team at Haller Middle School. You know, Riley. And you have a helper too. Everybody needs a helper. Good job. Congratulations. This grant is titled Let's Explore Our World Virtually. This is for the purchase of 3 Oculus Quest 2 headsets to allow students to take virtual field trips and experience a wide variety of content directly relatable to current lesson topics in the classrooms. Students will be able to explore the International Space Station, Earth, the human body, and more. Awesome. All right, next we have $500 to Becca Harkavy, Arlington High School. Her grant is titled Well-Stocked Classroom Libraries Encourage Reading. It's for the expansion of her classroom library. And this is actually a cool one because it's an extension of a mini grant that she received from the Education Foundation in the fall of 2020. So these additional grant dollars will allow her to purchase 50 high interest books, additional books for her students to enjoy daily and to expand the variety of offerings that she has in that classroom library. $388.75 to Elsa Lund, President's Elementary School. The grant is titled Hand Drums. It's for the purchase of 3 hand drums to expand her set and further her goal of having a full class set of hand drums. So I have to ask her how close she is to getting that full set. No? She needs to keep applying for grants, I guess. Yes. Good. I like it. I like it. Yeah, this was cool. So her hand drums help, of course, students engage in rhythm and movement activities and learn about the music of other cultures. All right, $1,250 to the President's Elementary Kindergarten grade team.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Very much.
Yes. Grant is titled Super STEAM, Creating a Makerspace in the Classroom. Make sure I get this right now. Purchase of a wide variety of play to learn materials. These materials will support activities in STEAM learning by adding makerspace activities, as well as imagination kits, including a variety of building materials students can use to explore shape, function, stability, and strength. Funds will also be used to purchase car kits, right? Okay, I'm doing all right, which students will use to explore the ideas behind push, pull, and engineering concepts. All right, $1,250 to the Eagle Creek fourth grade team. This grant is titled Dress for Success in Fourth Grade. It's for the purchase of, it's for many things, bear with me. It's purchase of t-shirts for over 100 fourth graders to use in creating a wearable book report, where students will use different parts of the shirt to highlight a separate story element from the book of their choice. Students not only wear the book report, but they practice public speaking skills in delivering a report to their peers in the classroom. Funds will also be used to purchase congratulatory t-shirts for fourth graders that accept and complete the challenge of reading 40 books in fourth grade, called the 40 Book Challenge, where students are expected to read books of their choice at a reading level across 9 literary genres. The shirts are awarded upon completion of the challenge and feature a dragon with the phrase, "I burned through 40 books in fourth grade." All right, $1,250 to the Kent Prairie K-5 special education team. Here you are. Oh, here, Riley, you do it. I'm sorry. Thank you. Congratulations. The grant is titled Interactive Education Tools. It's for the purchase of new iPads, Osmo kits, and headphones to assist students in individualized academic goals in math and ELA programs. Versatility of this technology and the Osmo kits will help these students meet specific individual needs and provide an equitable learning experience for every student. $500, Jennifer Ansbach at Eagle Creek Elementary. Grant is titled SLP Materials. It's for the purchase of SLP materials and supplies, including a monthly subscription to the SLP Now program. This program and the hands-on materials she'll purchase will be used to enhance speech sessions, specifically for assisting students in articulation, auditory processing, social communications, and vocabulary development. All right, $1,000 to the post middle school ELA department. Congratulations. Thanks for being here. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. This grant is titled Student Voices, Post Middle School Library. Post middle school students were given a voice and asked to share their school library wish list for books to become successful readers. This grant will fulfill the requests of the students with purchase of student selected school library resources for books of interest to 6th through 8th grade readers at Post, including topics of cooking, cultures, diversity, LGBTQ+, verse and rhyme, comedy, history, and more. Very cool grant. All right, $150 to Wesley Klein, Eagle Creek Elementary. This is for a grant entitled Sensory Aquarium Lamp. This is for the purchase of a, imagine this. It's a 4-foot tall lamp. It's clear, it has water, it makes bubbles, fish that bob up and down in the tube. The lamp will be used in a sensory corner of the classroom and give students of various sensory needs a place to regulate and to support learning in an alternate classroom setting. $450 to Janelle Rose at Pioneer Elementary. Grant is titled Cozy Up with a Good Book. This is for the purchase of 30 books to expand this teacher's classroom library and her reading corner. These selected books have been guided by suggestions from Miss Rose students and include grade appropriate selections to assist in building reading fluency, UDL, and social emotional learning. $500 to Artis Hallinger, Eagle Creek Elementary School. Now, I know Artis was just here. She must have left, but she did a great job with those students tonight with their recorders and their drums. And this grant for her is titled Eagle Creek Marimba Goal Completion. It's for the purchase of 2 soprano marimbas to complete a full set for Mrs. Hallinger's class. She's been working on this set for 8 years, so we're happy we get to help her complete her set. These marimbas are exciting and engaging for students in music instruction, rhythm skills, and music concepts. All right, $409 to Karen Gorzella, Eagle Creek Elementary School. Grant is titled Closing the Communication and Phonology Learning Gap. This is for the renewable of a subscription to a software called Hear Builder and for the purchase of new materials to assist in speech therapy. This is another one that builds upon a AE grant that we funded to her in the fall of 2021. This renewed subscription and the purchase of the language and fluency games that she plans to buy will continue to assist students in her classes with speech therapy at Eagle Creek. $750 to the post-middle school 8th grade team. Here we go again. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much.
Yes. This grant titled Student Voices Classroom Library. Again, post-middle school students voicing their classroom library wish lists for books. This grant will fulfill their requests with the purchase of student-selected books of interest to 8th grade readers, including topics of science fiction, realistic fiction, horror, LGBTQ+, war and history, verse, comic books, and more. $475 to Rebecca Connor at post-middle school. Her grant is titled Building Community. This is for the purchase of supplies to be used in 2 projects that will assist students in building on elements they are learning in the Character Strong program. These 2 projects will focus on improving social emotional skills, specifically focusing on building community. So the first project is a project called Community Rocks, where students will paint rocks and then apply a QR code to each rock. Rocks will then be placed throughout the community for others to find and scan the QR code and leave information about the rock, of course, find information about the rock, and then they can leave that rock for other people to find and brighten their day. Project 2, called Seed Folks, inspired by a book of the same title. Students will create a community garden, learn how to work together as a team, and provide skills vital to becoming a valuable community member. And then finally, last but not least, $751.35 to Matthew Koenigs of post-middle school. This grant is titled Raising Salmon in the Environmental Science Classroom. It's for the purchase of a tank chiller, the final piece of equipment needed among a vast list of supplies that Mr. Koenigs has been collecting to complete this project with his students. The tank chiller will be used in a 30-gallon tank to raise cutthroat salmon eggs provided by the Arlington Fish Hatchery. This project is in cooperation with the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife, and it will allow students to participate in the entire process of raising the eggs into salmon and will culminate in releasing those salmon into Lake Armstrong. So with that, I'll ask the board to accept the grants as proposed tonight. Certainly appreciate you allowing us to come here and describe each one. And I'll also ask that those that are here tonight that received a grant come up and we'll take a quick photo before you all leave.
All right, thank you, Kevin, for bringing a very long list of projects and the funding to go with it. We appreciate the Arlington Education Foundation very much. This is an action item. Do we have a motion from a member of the board to approve the Arlington Education Foundation fall mini grants for a total of $14,128.36?
I can move that we approve the fall mini grants.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the AEF Fall Mini Grants for $14,128.36. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. The grants are approved and we appreciate the Arlington Education Foundation. If you don't mind gathering, we can take a quick picture.
Do it quick.
Okay.
Super professional right here.
It's fine. It'll be great.
Where do you want us to stand, Chris?
That's all either.
Thank you. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the really exciting board meeting, but if you want to leave, we will understand. Thank you. Have a wonderful night. Drive safe. Next up on the agenda, we will have our 21-22 fiscal year end report, our F-196 financial statements, and then this will be presented by our dearly beloved Gina Zutenhorst, our Executive Director of Financial Services. We want to say thank you for everyone who's participated so far in our evening, and it's been very, very positive. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am going to take just a moment to share my screen and then we'll get started. All right. So we're here to talk about our fiscal year end. Our financial statements have been prepared and it is called the F-196. That is a financial name that was given to it by the state. And that is a document that is attached to your board plates for your viewing. It's a 90-page report-ish, give or take some pages. And so what we'll look at today is a report that I've prepared for you to present some of the highlights. So as I said, it's a state required financial format, the F-196. Our fiscal year runs September 1st through August 31st. And the deadline to have everything prepared and finalized and accrued and all those accounting entries done is October 25. And then we have that submitted to the Northwest ESD and they perform a review function before forwarding it on to OSPI. So we'll be going through a summary of our general funds and our other funds. We'll start with general fund. Here is a summary of our revenue and expenditures, our beginning fund balance and our ending fund balance. It gives you a column that shows our 2021 actual, our 2021-22 revised budget in the middle there, and then our 21-22 actual figures. This column shows difference between budget and actual, and then there's a column showing the percentage difference. So a highlight, just looking at the overall summary, is our ending fund balance has decreased by $2 million compared to where we started with at the beginning of the year. Our revenues were 1.7 million more than we budgeted for. And I'll talk about some of those reasons. And our expenditures were approximately $656,000 less than we budgeted. And main thing here to look at also is just to recognize that our district
this is the range that we're in. Our district is about a $90 million revenue district. We're about a $90 million expenditure district. So when we're thinking about some of those big numbers, how do we compare in context to other districts around us, different sizes? We are in that $90 million range. So increased revenues. Our average student enrollment during 21-22 was 83 students more than we had expected. So that generates additional revenues for us. In March of 2022, if you'll remember, we did a official formal budget revision. And in that time, we also were able to adjust our budgeted revenues to encompass that we knew we'd be getting additional revenues from the fact that we had more students. So that figure here on that summary shows, includes, we adjusted those revenues to include what we knew then in March. The state and local fiscal recovery funds, with the lovely name of SLURF, is the acronym for that, SLURF. In April 2022, which was after we had already done our budget revision, we found out we'd be getting from the legislature about $2.1 million federal stabilization funds. So that more or less would explain the increase in our revenues compared to budget. So that 1.7 million here, that's mainly because we got SLURF after we had already done a budget revision, didn't know that was coming, or didn't know the exact amount. Federal funds provided, actually all combined, about 7.8 million more in funds than the prior year. So that explains an increase compared to the last year. So if you're back to this summary screen one more time, if you're looking at these two columns compared to each other, or if you're looking at, hey, what do we have last year compared to this year, then that revenue increase becomes a lot more pronounced, 82 million compared to 89 million. And that is because of all those additional federal revenues that we received, the ESSER funds, that was COVID related, the SLURF funds, that was also stabilization and COVID related response. We had learn to return funds for our health services area, and then emergency connectivity funds as well. That was federal, and that was another $750,000 for purchase of technology. So I'll keep going. Our expenditures, our budget that was developed in the spring summer of 2021 maintained our staffing levels with only slight adjustments to align our staffing with our planned enrollment levels. But we also increased staff to support the accelerated learning efforts that we were undertaking, targeted and the additional support for students and also for safety and health services needs. The reality of 21-22, students and staff were still very impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic aftermath. So we were in masks, we were social distancing, we had COVID testing and tracking, and we were seeing a lot of social emotional behavior and needs. We still had unique COVID pandemic operating costs that continued into 21-22 to address those safety requirements too. So we had PPE, we had screening, COVID testing, care rooms, and equipment that was ongoing. Federal spending, I'm going to show you our federal spending for the ESSER monies that we received. We received a large chunk of ESSER funding, ESSER 2 in 2021, and we spent most of that. We had a little bit left over that we spent in 21-22. But I'm going to show you the plan and then what we actually did. So this was ESSER 2 spending 1.6 million. This was the plan. School building and instructional staff, 66%. Summer school was 4%. Technology and equipment was 30%. There's that. And now this is what we actually did. It was very close to what the plan was. And the differences would include that we spent more on summer school and social emotional supports overall than we had planned, those little blue slivers. And we also spent more on, actually less, sorry, than on the technology and equipment. And we spent more on school building instructional staff as well, out of the whole. But still very close to what our plan was. Now, fast forward, federal ESSER 3 spending. This was a much larger chunk. 3.6 was our planned spend in 21-22. And we've seen this chart almost every time that I've come before you talking about our monthly financials. This was our ESSER spending. That was the plan. And this is where we actually ended up. Now, this also has been very close to what our plan was, with only minor differences. We did spend more on summer school, although that doesn't really reflect very much in the pie chart. And we spent, let's see, let's go back. So rather than having the nursing FTE staff, that was supported by Learn to Return funds instead. And we were able to do more with the school building and instructional FTE, but also the counseling staff and social emotional supports. So once more, here's the chart from the plan. Here's the chart with the spend. And now those funds are fully exhausted and spent. So coming back to our general fund balance, our board policy indicates a fund balance should be maintained at a level equal to 1 month's average operating costs. Our 21-22 average monthly operating costs were 7.5 million. So that would have been our targeted ending minimum fund balance that we would have wanted to have on hand. And we met that. We had 10.1 million was our actual ending fund balance for 21-22. And it was actually a little closer to 10.2 million. Here's our fund balance trend. Our ending fund balance for 21-22 is 10.18 million. And you can see that the navy blue or the dark line chart that bounces around across the months. Here it is in August, ending 10.18 million. And again, the trend is that it is less than it has been in prior years, but we are still above our minimum fund balance targeted. I'm going to keep on cruising, and you guys can ask questions, please, as I'm going, if you'd like, or write them down and ask them when we get further in. Here's a little bit more detail about our revenues by major category. And shows that makeup of where we received more federal funds. That was more than we planned. And we actually received less in state revenues than we planned as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So in 2019-20, our average annual FTE was 5,585. And that generated revenues of 55 million approximately. In 2021, the enrollment dropped to 5,154. And that was right when we were during school closures. And the state general revenues were 54.7 million. And that was propped up by state legislature relief and enrollment stabilization of 1.9 million. And also local equalization or LEA and state forest remained higher. Now coming into 21-22, our average annual FTE was 5,263, but our state general revenues were only 51.8. So as I'm looking at those numbers, I'm thinking, hey, how come we got less in state general revenues when our enrollment was increasing? Why is that? So I had to go do some looking, and I figured it out. Part of it is regionalization factor is stepping down. So yeah, it's evidence of that 1% drop that we get from every year. It drops 1%. Also, in 2021, the year we're comparing to, our state funds were actually higher because we got enrollment stabilization funding to help schools. And our LEA and state forest funds declined in 21-22 compared to last year. In fact, I had budgeted for us to receive less in LEA and state forest, and then we got even less than we budgeted. And that LEA decline is tied to the increased assessed valuation of property. While state forest funds, they're not tied to enrollment at all. It is a function of the timber harvest in the state, and it is not on a schedule. So it is unpredictable. This is just basically showing where revenue was more than planned. And the next slide will show you where it was less than planned. So when we're looking at the high level summary, there's a lot of numbers that are combined in that. So it is made up of various things. And sometimes those increases are offset by decreases. So this is where we received a lot more federal funds. And you can see that breakout. We've been talking about that. But food services and SLRF, federal SLRF, were the largest sources. And here was where we had decreased revenues. Our state general purpose, our less in local effort assistance, 640,000, 160,000 less in state forest funds. We had ARP IDE federal. We had budgeted to spend a certain amount because we had an award there, but we actually ended up not spending all of that. So it was 208 less than planned in the revenues there. But when that happens, we also didn't have the corresponding expenditures. So that would have been zero impact. Our federal special education funds, we received 114 less than planned, but there also did not have corresponding expenditures. And then other entities, Snohomish County, the preschool program, 230,000 less in that area, but then that was offset by some additional federal funds that were passed through to us from the county. So that was kind of a lot of detail, but I wanted to share just how many different sources of revenue were coming in and offsetting previous year's history of things, and it's a lot to track. I see a question.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the timber harvest revenue. Is that something that happens every year and every school district gets part of like a state timber harvest, or is that something from our timber here?
It's not our timber, but it is the state forest property that is administered. And I don't really know a ton of detail about how that is generated to us. It shows up on our Snohomish County treasurer's report. And it is a result of what they harvest in the state. I know that we also receive a little bit of federal funds that are called federal forest. And that's also from another piece of the timber money that's received. I guess our state is about 21% forest lands, and those forest lands are not subject to personal property taxes. And therefore, when those are harvested, there are some taxes that happen then, and those are dispersed to school districts. So I believe it's probably somewhat based on enrollment, somewhat based on if there's timber in our vicinity. I'm not sure of all the details of that, but we also own, our district owns, which is unique, timber lands. And when that is harvested, that's directly to the district and that revenue goes into the capital projects fund. So sorry, I don't have more to report on that. It's just, we just get it and we're happy for it. We're going to talk about expenditures now. We talked a lot about revenues. We will go through looking at our expenditures by program, by activity, by object, by location, and by subfund. And those are the required formats that the state
has dictated that all school districts will report their expenditures in. So first is by program. And this slide is really just telling you, again, what each of those kinds of things are. So when I say expenditures by object, what is that? It's salaries, benefits, supplies, and equipment. Whereas expenditures by program is more about the unique program that might have salaries and benefits and supplies equipment within it, but it's isolated into just that program, whether it's special education or career and technical education programs. So that this slide explains what each of those things is. Just also highlighting that new requirement in 2019-20 was to code things by expenditures. By location, very unique, instructional and non-instructional, whereas before we weren't required to report that to the state. And so we had to adjust all of our accounting systems to be able to do that. And we also have new coding by the sub-fund. And so we had to adjust all of our accounting processes and coding strings to do that. So that's of great impact to the accounting, all school districts, but we've done it. Here's expenditures by program, and you can, same kind of format. It gives you last year's, what did we spend, our actual, and then our budget, and then this year's actual, the difference, and a percentage change. And no surprise, our federal special purposes where we show our big increase in expenditures. But a lot of the increase in the programs is quite expected. And I'll
Gina,
keep
can I
going.
ask another question about that slide?
Yeah,
I know I've asked this before, but I've forgotten. What is included in other instructional programs?
other instructional programs is summer school, traffic safety, highly capable, and youth training programs, and then other instructional programs. So there you go. This slide tells you what each of those, the way it's broken out here.
So the increase
is included in there.
is because we had more kids in summer school. Probably.
For the expenditures. No, there's just a lot more things going on in there. It wasn't just for summer school. I'd have to do a deeper dive to tell you on that one. There's a lot in there. Donation funds go in there as well. So if a school receives a donation, it goes in other instructional as well, and then they spend it there. So
like fifth grade camp would end up in other
Yes.
instructional programs. And okay, thank you.
okay. So moving on, this is expenditures by activity summary. And the next slide tells you, if you're curious, what is in each of those areas: teaching and support activities versus central admin versus other support activities here. And school admin, where'd that go? That's not listed. But anyway, the other support activities, this negative, or the spending there, that can be explained by what was going on in our district with, we had a lot of additional costs with transportation, and our child nutrition services program cost a lot more than we would have planned. And then our lease accounting also is a component of that. So that is what is going on there. And here's by object. This is the spending that was by certificated salaries, classified salaries, benefits, supplies, materials, purchase services, travel, and capital outlay. And there you go. A reminder, we did our budget revision here. So that's part of the reason why these figures show so much higher than what we have as an actual. And included in that was some one-time funds. For example, the emergency connectivity funds. We increased our budget knowing that we would be purchasing those out of supplies and materials. but those are one-time funds, so they are not included in the budget for next year. Okay, and then this is just a quick picture, expenditures by school location and then non-instructional locations. And now we've had 3 years of that, so we have a 3-year history that we can put up before you. And most of those increases are by school location are attributable to salary increases, salary and benefits. And here is by the sub-fund, our beginning fund balance, our ending fund balance between sub-fund 10, which is state and other funding, and then 21-22 sub-fund 11, that's our levy and other funds. And that's a 3-year. No, that's just the 1 year. Okay, and what do we spend our sub-fund on? The biggest factors are our additional instructional certificated staff and classified staff, our instructional compensation, staff and compensation for vacation and personal leave buyback and extended days, classroom overload compensation. We have extracurricular activities and athletics in there, musical instruments, nursing staff and supplies, substance abuse intervention staff, salary and benefits, school resource officer, campus security, emergency prep and safety. We have some technology staff, software licenses and equipment. We have some curriculum software materials. We had some COVID-19 costs there. We had our student supplies that we provide for students, field trips, donations, fundraisers. You can keep on going, but there's a lot there. I'm letting you quickly scan that before I speed on back to the next. So I'm going to take a pause here. And if there are any questions before we go to the other funds. Okay. ASB fund, our Associated Student Body. This is what the picture looks like for them. These funds are support student activities and athletics. And our school closures still greatly impacted revenue and expenditure levels for 21-22 compared to prior years. We budget revenue and expenditures in there mainly for capacity's sake. So they typically spend less, get less than we budget, but we budget larger so that they have the capacity to do what they need to do. The debt service fund, this is about debt management. It's used solely for principal, interest, and other bond costs. And this is where we ended for the debt service fund. Pretty much right on target for them because we know exactly what principal and interest is due when. And the funding sources that are in there right now comes in from other funds, the transportation vehicle fund and the capital projects fund to service the debt that was issued to provide for those projects and to purchase the buses. Capital projects. These funds support building construction and major capital repairs and improvements. This is where this fund is ended at. Started at 14 million, ending at 8.9 million. And we're cruising along in the projects that were in our capital levy. The main of that were the Arlington High School classroom additions, secure entry, track resurfacing, the secure entry and construction at other sites like Weston, Haller, Pioneer, Presidents, Camp Prairie, Eagle Creek, district-wide safety and security improvements. We had also Eagle Creek and post-middle school carpeting and HVAC boiler at Camp Prairie. Some of those are still a little bit to be finished up on, so we'll have costs on those this year. And other of those that were mentioned were actually completed in 21-22. And now for the buses. We bought six buses last year, 21-22. we ended our fund balance with 689,000 in there. And we had a transfer in from general fund to help support funds to purchase future buses. So what's next? I'm almost done with this presentation for you. Just letting you know that the auditors will come in and perform an audit of our financial statements. And they come around February or March and stay with us a month or two. Next, accounting requirements. We talked about the GASB lease accounting, that was effective for 21-22. We got that done. We have it all recorded. We're in compliance. That will be part of what is audited when the auditors come to town. But we have another one we're going to have to do now for 22-23, and that is called GASB 96. A subscription-based information technology agreements, SPITA. Great acronyms, right? Effective for next year. So we'll have to work on implementing that as well. And that is the end of our presentation. 21-22 aside, on to 22-23. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
I don't hear any questions, but thank you, Gina, for that very detailed explanation of our F-196 and the year-end accounting. Next up, we'll have our Universal Design for Learning update by Carrie Henderson-Burke, our Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. And welcome.
Thank you. Okay, let me share my screen and we'll get this going. Okay. And I left my glasses, so now I can't see where it says play from current slide. I'll go get my glasses. Sorry. Thank you, Brian. There's nothing like wowing people with a great start. Okay, never mind. We're just going to go with this version and it'll be fine. All right. Thank you so much for letting me come back and talk once again about Universal Design for Learning. Just a quick reminder that this is part of the board fulfilling a goal around understanding best practices that are going on in classrooms and connected to board goal 2, set and communicate high expectations for learning. So that is part of our driving force. A quick review, because we've talked about this so often before, but Universal Design for Learning is an approach to teaching and learning that assumes kids learn differently, adults learn differently, everyone learns differently, and that's okay. It's part of being human. Our system has to adapt to that reality. Kids are not broken. There's nothing wrong with learning differently or at different paces. It's normal and healthy. That is the basic philosophy of Universal Design for Learning. Our system adapts to differences in learning through flexible lesson design. In other words, variability. In other words, we have inclusion and inclusionary practices happening across our system, trying to keep kids as much as possible in the general education classroom. We know we have to have clear goals. Everybody needs to have the same learning standards, but different ways to get there. And we are working this year with Tier 1 instruction, that general ed classroom. So for today, we're going to talk about a specific tool within UDL called the UDL guidelines. It's just a way to help us think about how to implement this. The concept is easy, that everybody learns differently isn't new information. The fact that that's part of being human, not hard to understand, but we need some help with the how. So these guidelines help us with the how of implementing. So we're going to think about implementing UDL with these guidelines in 3 big buckets, right? So we've got the why of learning or engagement. Why am I doing this? Why does this matter? What is interesting to me in it? We've got the what of learning, which is different ways to represent what you have learned. we think of it as assessment or some kind of project, culminating project, generally speaking. And we think about the how of learning. How am I understanding this? How am I actually engaging in a learning process? You can see on these pictures that different areas of the brain are lit up or highlighted with each of these. That's because UDL is the science of how people learn. And we need a how. We need to know what we're going to do. We need a what. We obviously need content, but we also need to be engaged with it. We need to be interested in it. Those three components are necessary. So we're going to go through these guidelines. So if you think about these big buckets, what, why, and how, these guidelines, and we'll go through it in a little bit more detail, give us a good beginning point for thinking about how we can start implementing UDL. So the first column under engagement gives a list of ideas that you can think about when you're trying to get kids interested in the content, right? Specific strategies. The middle one, when you're thinking about how they'll show what they know, specific strategies. The right-hand column, when you think about what they're going to do to learn. We got it. Okay. This document is structured really interestingly. So I'm going to depart from my computer screen and point over here. All right. So if you'll notice horizontally, there are 3 rows, right? Access. Ooh, where are the glasses? Right here. This says access, not action. Build, and then that bottom one, which I can't read. Thank you. Internalize. I can read, I promise. Anyways, the way these are constructed is that this access column is really teacher directed. Those are actions and strategies that teachers engage in to get kids learning, interested and expressing. The build row is teachers and kids working together. And the bottom row is kids being able to be completely independent in their strategies for learning. And that is the end goal. Eventually, you're going to graduate. Eventually, you're going to leave school. We need you to be independent learners by the time you go, because the learning doesn't stop after school, of course. The end result is the bottom column, kids who are engaged or purposeful and motivated in their learning. When it comes to varying representation, we wind up with learners that are resourceful and knowledgeable, because they know how to show what they've learned. And when we think about action and expression, the end result is strategic and goal directed, because the content is clear. So those are our 3 big buckets. I would like to go into a little bit more detail into the ideas that this document shares. But I have to get to it just a second, and I'll reshare my screen. Okay, so when this document is live and in front of you, it's full of clicks. There are a lot of places you can go to access a lot of information. So if I'm a teacher trying to think about how to implement these, implement UDL, I might start with engagement, and I might think about a way kids can be engaged is by making sure that what we're covering is relevant and valuable. So as a teacher, I can click here and learn some ideas or think about some strategies that will ensure that what we're learning, that kids understand what we're learning matters and is authentic. So there's a lot of information, very activities and sources of information, right? Design activities so that learning outcomes are authentic. Provide tasks that allow for active participation. These are just ideas to think about how to engage kids. Each one of those boxes on this document, each one of these takes you to a link filled with strategies to provide options for perception or vary expression and communication. So it really takes a lot of clicks to get to know the content, but there's a lot there to draw from when you're thinking about those 3 big buckets of engagement and implementation for UDL. All right, let me pull up my PowerPoint again, if you'll bear with me. Okay, so what we've found and the value for this is it's just overwhelming when we just say go implement UDL. Obviously, we need some big ways to categorize our understanding. So, and then you can also tailor the level of independence depending on the group of kids that you're working with. So it's handy. Any questions about the guidelines themselves? That was a super quick overview. It takes a good hour or two to get to know that document, and then using it is, also part of our planning process. Any questions? Okay. Just a reminder that we're gonna get together and talk UDL once a month. So here is our planned progression of learning over the course of the year. This is the last conceptually based session for us, but we're going to start bringing in teachers and kids. So Judd Hunter is going to come join us. He teaches PE at Arlington High School. He's the chair. He's going to talk about variability in engagement in that Y column. In January, Julie Polkinghorn is a 4th grade teacher at Eagle Creek. She's going to bring some kids and talk about variability and how kids learn. And then Megan O'Brien and Angie Kyle in February with how they show what they know. So it's pretty great. We'll dive into lesson planning a little bit in March. I don't have a person lined up for that yet, but I will. Rachel Dubey is going to come and talk about UDL with regard to dyslexia and early literacy. I'm kind of excited to hear what she'll share with us. And then last but not least, co-teaching at our high school. So, all right. Questions, thoughts, anything else you'd like to see?
I'm hoping maybe one of our student advisors has a great question.
I have no questions at this time. However, I'm excited to see more students here giving a presentation. That'll be fun.
I agree. That's kind of why we're doing this. All right.
Anybody on Zoom have any questions?
No questions. Very good. Carrie, I'm also looking forward to what will be coming in the future and going, diving more deeply into the UDL. I'm anxious to see what, just more of the nuts and bolts of it. So thank you for putting this together.
You bet.
All right. Thank you very
so
much, Carrie. We're excited to see it in action. Next up on our agenda is our first reading of board policies 3432, emergency preparedness and response, 4210, regulation of dangerous weapons on district property, and 6112, rental or lease of district property. And we will get to hear from Brian Lewis.
Good evening, directors. I'm bringing to you tonight 3 policies for your consideration. Policy 3432, emergency preparedness and response. Substitute House Bill 1941 was adopted by the state legislature during its 2022 session. The new legislation expanded the requirements for school safety drills. The bill added requirements for emergency mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery, making provisions for communicating with students and staff regarding emergency preparedness, preparedness and communications with staff, students, and family about student reunification procedures, using training guidance prepared by the state of Washington, updating school safety plans, and taking a trauma-informed approach to active shooter scenarios. I want to take a moment and just expand on this last bullet point here. A trauma-informed approach to active shooter scenarios means not utilizing any kind of effect to create a more realistic type of experience. Like in some schools, the way they practice active shooter scenarios, they have someone actually firing blanks in the hallway during a lockdown, binding teachers and firing blanks nearby to them to kind of create what is perceived as a more realistic experience. This is not what we do here. What we do is more of a preparedness type of attitude where we give staff and students an opportunity to be aware that a drill will be taking place days prior to the actual conduct of the drill, and then making an announcement of the drill itself and making it clear that this is a drill and not any kind of just an emergency event that's occurring. So this is something we've been doing for quite a period of time already. So any questions regarding policy 3432?
Can you mention the approach that we take with all students, like especially those with disabilities?
So left out of the process of practicing or preparing for an emergency response. This includes all students, regardless of their ability or lack thereof to move for mobility purposes. All students and staff are included in emergency preparedness events. We interact with the fire department on a regular basis to make sure that they understand what's happening in our buildings in terms of where the special education classrooms are located, in any kind of special awareness that they might need regarding students as well.
Thank you.
Okay, next, policy 4210, regulation of dangerous weapons on district property. This policy is being updated due to the passage of House Bill 1630 in the 2022 session. The policy reiterates the bar on possession of dangerous weapons on school properties and also provides a list of what constitutes a dangerous weapon. That hasn't changed. And expands the bar on possession of dangerous weapons to facilities used but not owned by a school district for purposes of conducting school board meetings. So if, for example, our school board would have a meeting in another site that's not owned by the district, then that bar of carrying weapons at that facility would be the same as if they were meeting at a school board or at a school district facility. There's also a change to the ban on weapons owned on properties owned by a school district, but leased or rented as a personal domicile. In the past, we have leased properties for use as a domicile. We don't do that anymore. If we did, then a person would be able to possess what would be considered a dangerous weapon in their own domicile, but nowhere else. And then policy 6210, rental or lease of district property. It's a companion policy, a companion to policy 4210. Reiterates the bar on carrying dangerous weapons on properties owned by the district, but leased or owned by other, or leased or rented by others. For example, if we're leasing or renting the Hallard Gym to a basketball group, we're still not allowing dangerous weapons on the property. This policy also reinforces the exception of properties owned or rented or leased for use as a personal domicile, as expressed in policy 4210. That's all the policies I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any board members have any questions or comments about these policies? Any revisions that they would like to see? I wanted to ask the students in the room if they've heard anything about the drills that we have normally, if they feel like it's been appropriate and if they've heard any feedback from any peers.
I would say that ours are certainly much calmer than the ones you described. And I guess we're kind of at the point where any more realism would go across the border of being helpful to just going into the border of, I guess, being scary for no reason. So I would say that we're kind of in the domain of what we do is better than firing blanks in hallways.
I'm gonna have to agree with Kyle here. I think the drills that catch us off guard, where we're not ready for them, people start freaking out and we're just like, oh no, is this real? Like, is there actually a fire? Like just a while ago, there was a fire drill in the morning where everybody had to line up by the bus stop and just out in the cold before class started. And everybody was like, is there really a fire going on inside? So the realism is helpful to prepare yourself, like what do you actually do in an emergency situation? But other than that, I have no comments to it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for sharing. And thank you, Brian. It concludes the new business portion of our meeting. Next up is our informational items, and we'll start with our superintendent's report. Dr. Sweeting.
Good evening again. I wanted to do a shout out and a thank you to our maintenance and operations staff who helped us during the electrical outage that we had over the weekend, not this last weekend, but the weekend before. It was unexpected that we would be without a power for the period of time that we did. In fact, the emergency waiver request that was approved by the board tonight was because Pioneer and Arlington High School were unable to open the Monday after that weekend. So I just know that it required hours over the weekend and evenings. So I wanted to do a shout out. I also wanted to share that we recently had our Washington State Patrol winter bus inspection. This is kind of like they come and they just stop by and say, we're here to do this. And they performed the assessment on 25% of our fleet. During that assessment, one bus was removed from service and repaired and returned to service that same day, which is pretty awesome. And it's really a testament to the focus of our drivers and mechanics to providing safe transportation for our students. And, being put out of service could be a thing like there was something on the floor that was loose. So it's very detailed, minute things that can call it out of service temporarily. Also, this Thursday, we are, the majority of the board is headed over to the WASDA annual conference. And we are planning, as to this moment, we'll confirm them with an email tomorrow, but car assignments, I just want to say, I'm driving my vehicle and my vehicle's leaving at 7:15 a.m. on Thursday morning with Kyle and Mariska and Carrie Helgeson going over and then coming back on Saturday, Kyle, Mariska, and then Mary, I believe will be in my car. And Erica, you're driving, and I believe over will be Mary and Sherry with you, and then on the way back, Sherry. And then Mike Kingman will be driving his own vehicle, and Debbie at this moment is driving her own vehicle. So we're excited for this opportunity. We're going to learn a lot, have time together as just to talk and learn, but also we will not be doing any board business. It's just learning. And then we will be presenting on Friday afternoon at 4:00 about the voices and learning that we hear from our students, staff, and our community, and how we have made better decisions. And we're going to share some of those decisions that we've made. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to having some time to just focus on school board education for us to really be engaged and inspired. Next up, we have our legislative update and session. Director Kelly, do you have anything you'd like to share?
I would share that, excuse me, not much voice tonight, that I did receive an email from a director from Granite Falls. I think his name is Carey Carl. Anyway, I'm looking forward to meeting with him on Thursday. All things being equal, we arrive and talking about what the legislative agenda looks like. I pulled up the email. There's like the top 5. So I am very much looking forward to being engaged with that conversation and what that looks like actually going into the 2023 session with our legislators this year. So I'm excited to be a part of that.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have our comments from board members. Director Knapp, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Was not expecting to go first. I think that it was awesome that the Eagle Creek musicians were there tonight. I'm sad that I missed it in person, but it looked like they were having a lot of fun, and so important to come and share your talents. And this last weekend, I took 2 of my kids to go see Clue at the high school, and that was a lot of fun. My youngest kept his water bottle because it has the little label. I don't know who made the labels. I'm sure that the students designed it. And he said, I'm not throwing this away. So, and looking forward to learning with the board this weekend.
Thank you. Director Kingman.
Just be careful driving over the pass this week, and I'll see you in Spokane.
Thank you. Director Ray.
Nothing. Thank you, though.
Thank you. Director Knapp, or Director Kelly, do you have any further comments?
No, I don't. Just looking forward to, meeting folks in person since I haven't had that opportunity. And we'll be in person. So I think it'll be a very fruitful visit, and I'm looking forward to, doing something different, kind of getting out and, being with other adults, talking about school board business. So looking forward to it.
Thank you. Me too. Student Advisor Schroeder, would you like to share anything?
Much like Director Knapp said, it was really cool to see the Eagle Creek people here. I still cannot play my recorder, and I never could. So I was very impressed. And as well as that, I would just like to say I'm looking forward to this weekend. The WASDA conference last year was incredibly insightful, and it taught me a lot of things about how I can be a good student representative. So I'm excited for myself and excited for the board, and I'm just looking forward to it. Thank you.
And Student Advisor LeVon, would you like to share anything?
Much like Director Knapp and Kyle, I also enjoyed seeing the students with their recorders and their drums. I thought it was very exciting to see just the young minds interested in music, because me personally, I love music. I'm a secretary for the Flight Jazz Choir, and just music has been a part of my life for a while. And I am super excited for the conference this weekend. It'll be my first, and I've heard nothing but good things, so I'm very excited.
Thank you. I also got to see Clue, and I was very impressed. It was just delightful and joyful and fun, and I got to sit with Erica, and so it was really fun. And her kids were so well behaved. My kids are never that good. Love you kids, but next up, our next regular board meeting will be after Thanksgiving on Monday, November 28th at 6:00 p.m. right here in the boardroom. And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.